Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is April 17th. I had to take a 2-week break. That was not necessarily intentional. 1 week was due to personal recharge, and 1 week is due to they were doing electrical work on my neighborhood, and I did not have vital electrons flowing in a wire on Wednesday. So we are catching up with the syllabus. However, today, what I wanted to talk about is something that I don't even have a recorded video for, and I feel like it's the most important or valuable information that I have to share. Because I was saying in the little introduction, you know, when I can flap my moving mouth parts, and I can do a lot of descriptive work that is on the level of the anthropomorphic viewpoint. So if we're talking about the chakras on the body, right? And we have this one that is indigo, and we have this one that is violet. When you're looking out through the indigo aperture and you're perceiving on the anthropomorphic level, you're interpreting the abstract higher dimensional waveforms that are they're abstract. They're like patterns like this. This is not a picture of a face. This is an abstraction, or it's a representational painting of something that is abstract. It's not a face. So even in terms of our biology and our neurology, we have very specific cells in the structure of our brain that are made to recognize faces. And that's why you can look at something that's relatively abstract, whatever, like the grain pattern of a wood or something like that, or the carpeting pattern or something, and you can start to see faces in there, because that is a tendency of your anthropomorphic lens or viewpoint, human-formed viewpoint, to project that approach onto everything else. So we tend to project through the human lens what we are and how we perceive the world onto all other organisms. And that is like super yellow caution flags, because you can make false interpretations of the world. You can make false presumptions based upon projecting your human presumptions onto other organisms and other scales of life. So what I'd like to talk about today are things that are on the abstract level, not merely seen through the level of human interpretation, but perceived through pure abstraction, and then understand how that applies to the human level. And really, I was saying this too, once you understand and master the flow of energy patterns, patterns of the way that energy flows around this shape, and this shape is the precursor to this shape, so I'll show them both to you, you can understand that on every scale. Like from an atomic or subatomic or molecular level, this is how energy flows. To an individuated human level, or even like the scale of a one-celled animal, that is how energy flows. Or the planetary level. So this shape relates to the Earth's magnetosphere. When I start to tell you about what's going on with this shape, you can then understand, oh, that's what's going on a planetary level, right? When we talk about the heliosphere, that this is the entire magnetic structure that surrounds our entire solar system, far, far, far beyond, you know, the exoplanets like Pluto and whatever. And this is also the same shape that is the shape of our galaxy. So understanding and mastering these abstract energy patterns means that you can apply these lessons to the lesson of the scale of life at the level of the star systems, a solar system, and even a tiny microscopic, you know, a quantum level, a subatomic particle. So, and all of this is about time. So another thing I'm going to do in this lesson, this is not repeat, and this is one room schoolhouse. I don't have a level 2 lesson for this. I'm going to show you how these fit together. Because, so first of all, I'm holding up static objects, but these all move. So I'm going to use the whiteboard and drawing in order to show you the way that these energy patterns move. And then also, these patterns don't just sit there on their own. They've got other patterns around them, and everything, it moves and interpenetrates together. So this is going to be just all, you know, very, very abstract in my presentation today. And then I'm happy to take questions, because I know that there's going to be some around that too. And this, so I was going to actually pick up where we are in the syllabus, which is the level 2 lesson would be on Christian religion. It seems appropriate for Holy Week and things like that. I might go into that a little bit, but I really want to tell you, I feel like anthropomorphic level information is not the most valuable to all of us at our journey at this point, because we are moving beyond the human form or the mold that has created us and defined us as what we were in the past. We are now moving into a new definition of what it is to be human. So yeah, the rehashing of the old, I'm feeling much more like the need to focus on the map of the new instead of a rehashing of the old. So I also want to reassure you, like, don't worry, I'm not skipping lessons. I will return to that, but I'm sometimes encouraged to, listen to my inner prompting to talk about exactly what I want to talk about on a particular day. So I feel like this is the most valuable use of our collective time, to be able to focus our minds on the things that are really going to help us at this moment in our journey. So first, let me show you just some pictures. Basic energy patterns as they flow. This one right here. Good. We're not getting to the lasagna yet. Let me make my face bigger so you can see when I hold up the sculpture. Cool. I can't see your chat right now though, guys. So if you're saying something in the chat, I can't tell. So this yellow sculpture right here is a 3-dimensional representation of the same thing that I've got over here. Get the annotation up. This was a glass piece. It died a horrible death. I joke about that now, but it's still very sad. But you can see the same shapes, the same motifs are echoed in like this area down here. It's pretty much a cross section. So I bring this painting up because it's a very accurate cross section. So first of all, it's accurate in terms of all the proportions, that this is like unit 1, and this is like 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, 1/6, and 1/7. All right, this is very basic review. You guys are all experts at this already. These are all nested together. So if you can imagine where I'm circling right now, this fits inside of this all the way down into here. So each one of these, let's turn on my piano so that you can hear it. Each one of these chakras or energy systems, centers, is like an octave. An octave, octo means 8, and on the piano it means we've got 8 notes. Right? We got 8 notes. So on this, we have 7, but the 8th note would be the first color of the next octave. I know the words are hard to understand, but I know that you're with me. So here, within the red is subdivided also into orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And orange is subdivided into these 7 sections. So you've got a 7-layer cake, and each cake layer is divided into 7 subsections, and each one of these sections nests together. These are the harmonic overtones of you, and what we're talking about here is time. All of this is a map of time, okay? So let's talk about how, first we'll just work on one individual energy structure. I'll go back to my face and I'll show you how energy flows around this. It would be wonderful if I had an animation, so I hope one day I'll be able to work with, some more professional animators in order to show this. So that's why I'm describing it with my voice. Okay, so first you have energy that just flows in a simple circle. So you can see there's a simple circle here where I'm kind of rotating my pen. So you have energy that just flows around in loops like that, just static loops. And there are many of them. There are, theoretically around the torus, an infinite number of just static loops that are just circles that go around like this at this direction. But if I turn to the side a little bit so that you can see, here's another circle. So we also have all right, I'll get to that question. Hold on a second. We also have circles that just flow around in circles that are not spirals and that are not connected to any of the other circles, like this. So I have one that goes around here, like car tires on the car. This one goes around like this, and this one goes around like this. And then I also have to just use my fingers. This one that goes around like this, and this one underneath. And then you have one in front, and then you have one behind. All right? Then the patterns start to get more complex. When the circles start to, let's say, interpenetrate. So we had just one circle going around like this, but now what if I start to make, here where I'm hitting in the middle? This is important for you to understand. That's that singularity, convergence point, or 0th dimension. All of the circles that are going around in, this direction, they all, at a certain point, pass through here. The little dots of energy pass through there. So we can have going around in a circle like this. We can also have going around here and then coming out into a different circle. And then we begin to create the figure 8 movement like this. So now I'm good. That was me showing you with the sculpture. Now let me draw it for you two-dimensionally. So here's a cross-section of that yellow sculpture. Let me see if I could draw that second line a little bit better. So this is one of the top circles that just flows around in a circle. This one also just flows around in a circle. Just flows around in a circle because these guys do not connect to the central convergence point in here. But this is maybe a little bit off topic, but they do connect right here. They do connect right here where I'm making a big fat dot. So and there's, of course, the ones, I'm going to draw them in front here. Here's one that's in front, and then, of course, dotted line. Oh, yeah, I can't make a dotted line very well. There's a dotted line. There's one in the back, too. These guys hit together. They connect together over here. I didn't draw it perfectly, but you can see they connect together over here. So let me just erase some of these things. Oops, wait. I want to erase this. Good. And go back to here. So wait, now I'm drawing in, hey, look what I just drew in. This is part of making those vortex shapes, right? But that means that by implication, there's another circle that's up above like that. And as I'm drawing in this, upside down smile, then I'm also understanding that there's another implied circle down there. So in my sculpture, I don't have those. Look, it looks like a flat top and a flat bottom. This time, flat here and flat here. But we know that there's another bubble of energy that comes out around the top and comes down around the bottom. And that would make this even more accurate as a sculpture. So now let's draw with a different color. Here's what I described first. Emanating from the center. This is where all of these energy patterns emanate from the center. And that big dot travels around like this and around like this and then back to the center. Just a big circle. So that's one of the first energy patterns that we learned. Just a circle around and around and around and around. And that circle is there, and that circle is also there. And at almost all of the other, 360 degrees around the entire circle. And when we get even more sophisticated, we come out from the main, center convergence point, come back to here, go back into the main convergence point, but then we can emerge and go into a different circle. And then that creates the figure 8. Again, not the best drawing, but you're getting the idea of what I'm talking about. So first we just start off with the circle, then the circle becomes more complex and becomes the entire figure 8. And of course that figure 8 goes around the entire sculpture at all of the different angles. So like this, and like this, and like this, all right? And all of these movements are happening concurrently. So at the same time that we have circles and we have figure 8s, we then also have circulation around the outer perimeters of the vortexes. So I'm now highlighting the outer perimeters of a vortex. That's one right there, one right there, one right there. You're totally with me. This is the big one that I drew in front, and one right there, and there's one in the back. So this starts to become very fun and exciting. Let's choose a completely different color. This little green dot, you can see that. That little green dot can go around in a circle like this. Guess who just showed up? Let me get my little chair. You want to jump on up, girl? You want to jump on up? Come here. Come on over. Come on over. I'm sorry to interrupt, everyone. We have to have the boss come on board. Come on. There you go. There you go. She needs to, come on, jump, up, up, up. You can do it. Come here. Come here. Well, maybe she doesn't want to be on camera today. She's right there, guys. She's right there. Here, scooch closer. There you go. You want to up? Okay, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. She was hunting gophers in the backyard. She's very busy out there. So that green dot can do the same exact thing. It can do the very simple, just going around in a circle like that. But there are these places over here where it fits together with some of the other circles. And when it starts to get even more sophisticated in its journey, what that green dot can do is Maybe it can go halfway around and then jump circles over here. There's a place where they touch, where they're tangential. And then it can go around this circle. It can make a full circle if it wants to, or it can just do a half circle. It can do a half circle, come down to this area over here where it touches on another circle, and then it can either do, now I'm kind of going forward, you know, like kind of moving forward towards the camera, or can hop circles and even start to turn around the front, like around the front of a clock face. It doesn't have to go all the way around. Look, I just made a semicircle and I touch right here, and then I can hop back on board over here. So let me go back to my face because I feel like I can describe this with this too. The energy that is flowing, let's say where, you know, we can understand this as a cube. I have my white sculpture. Where's that white sculpture? Here. Sorry. Oh, I'm so organized, guys, I promise. I think this one, I know it's like this is unfired clay, and it's more than 10 years old, and you can see it's got a little bit chewed up just from like flaking off and everything like that. Let's talk about the outer perimeter. Just going in a circle, right? Just going in a circle. If this goes around in a circle and we get up to here, oh, look, I'm touching on another circle. Now I can go halfway around over here. Oh, look. Well, this part is chewed away like an ancient relic, but I just touched another circle. Now I can go halfway around over here. Oh, and now I'm touching over here. Now I can go either halfway around or all the way around and come back to here, then do halfway. What I'm trying to say is just like if we were playing with 4 notes on the piano, we can do all sorts of various combinations in order to make a different melody. That's what makes variation and variety and makes it fun and interesting. With energy flowing around these shapes, each one of these movements is like a note, and you can change the order of the notes in order to create a melody. So you can do full circle all around, that's one note. Half circle all around, that's a different type of note. Switch to a different side, switch to a different side. And what you're doing is you're transforming your flight through time. This is what I'm talking about. So big things are happening here. Blah, blah, blah. I have to describe this in explicit detail. You have DNA. Your DNA are tiny vibrating strings like that make music, and their dance and the music that they are emitting is your personal, individuated connection to this. This is the time field. This is made up of time. So you have a physical anthropomorphic form, like I spoke about, that when we see through the lens, I see 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth, and I say, that's a face, that's a person, there's someone there. This is another representation of someone, okay? So these are energy patterns as they flow. Hey, I haven't even gotten to what I'm talking about most of the time, the membrane of death, because, well, that would be part of this circular pattern. So, okay, when I go back to the whiteboard, this is all about life and death and afterlife and our trajectory through time. I'm just trying to think if I need to redraw this. Let me just draw a little. I draw this shorthand version all the time, right? This is the time field, and this is the lower quadrant of this sculpture that you see over here. What I just drew is that little vortex shape down there. And I'm always talking about how we're coming from the center over here. And what we're supposed to do is come right up the middle in perfect alignment, as opposed to, get a different color, askew, like this, hitting into this membrane. You know what I'm talking about, this membrane of death. We are not supposed to experience these membranes here. They are areas of energy and areas of potential that we are not actually supposed to put consciousness in that place. So you could think of consciousness as being like light. It is like awareness. It is like information. And there's a big difference between something that is a potential, a possibility, and something that is actually experienced by consciousness or illuminated by light. And another good analogy for this is you could think of it like a CD or DVD. Here's the DVD, right? And here's the hole in the middle. And here's where all the shiny rainbow, tracks are. And that exists as potential information. And until, let's get a different color, until a laser actually goes onto the surface of the CD or the DVD and it illuminates that information, and the information is liberated, or it can flow, or it is then something that can be read. That's exactly what the timelines and the possibilities of our life are like. That we have these possibilities that exist along this membrane of death that are areas of potential that we are not supposed to ever have to actually experience. You don't actually have to shine the beam of your mind, the needle of awareness onto those events, because it's all death. Let me just drink a little bit of water here. What do I say all the time in this class? Death was not part of the original musical score. Death is the aberration, the thing that is not actually supposed to exist. So what we are supposed to have, or actually supposed to have, just trying to find the color that is like different that you can actually see on your screen. I guess yellow. I don't know if it's going to show. You can totally not see that color. I don't know, gray. This, and that you can't distinguish that from any of the other colors that I have up there right now. Okay, light blue. There we go. This pathway right here, I call this the path of least likelihood. I'm not drawing a perfectly straight line. This is one of the other energy patterns that is in the cosmos. So I don't use very many straight lines in my paintings. I use almost none of them. These straight lines exist by implication, and they are also what I want for your intellect. When you see a straight line like that, what I want for your intellect to do is to understand that you are looking at a hoop edge on. So like if you're looking at this straight line over here, what you're, through the magic of perspective, you're understanding this, what you're actually looking at is like a hula hoop, but it's like this, right? Oh, like this is a good example. So this is a square or rectangular shaped object. But if I hold it on edge, what does it look like? It looks like a line. So actually any flat plane, any two-dimensional polygon, if you held it on edge, would look like a line. That's what you're looking at when you look at these straight lines. So you're not actually looking at straight lines. You're actually looking at a curved, line, but it's on edge. Or another way of thinking about it is that visual math that I've shared with you before. Here, we'll do it again. An up plus a down equals a neutral, right? So this is visual math. It's kind of like saying these two waveforms cancel one another out. This one goes up 1 unit, this one goes down 1 unit, and what happens when 1 unit up and 1 unit down gets added together is you get neutrality. So that's also how you can understand these blue pathways that I'm drawing here. They are like the end result of a collapsed waveform of something that was shaped like this and something that was shaped like this, and it got equalized out into visual math, into that straight line. It's a lot of words in order to describe all of this. But again, when you understand and master these concepts, this can be applied to an atomic level, a solar system level, at many, many levels through time. Now I want to talk about how this shape exists in relation to many shapes in a matrix. It doesn't just exist on its own. And that will help you also to understand the energy behavior on this blue line, because what happens is it bounces back and forth, like kind of like a light wave bouncing between two mirrors. So you also have another array that goes out like this, and another person or another aspect of self that is over here, like this. You are in a context with many other timelines and organisms that are also alive. So this is really about when we begin to take responsibility for our existence, we understand that our existence relates to many other forms of existence, both human and non-human. And I also say this is like a trapeze, or like any kind of a relay race, a trapeze, anything where you are receiving energy from someone else and then you must reflect or pass that energy on to the next place. That's what our DNA is doing. That's what our consciousness is doing. That's what we are doing with our trajectory through time. So I know in this time and place, many people have a very low esteem of themselves. They think like, I'm just a stupid person and my life means nothing and I'm not doing anything. They don't understand that your life means a lot, and that you are in a relay race where you're grabbing the baton from your ancestors or your parents' generation, and then you're holding it yourself, and then you pass it on to the next generation. And that's not only if you have physical offspring. I don't want you to just think that this is about like the shape of your nose or, you know, how tall you are. No, I'm speaking about consciousness ideas, that we get ideas and energy from other organisms, and then we pass those ideas and energy on to other organisms. So I'm a good example of this. I get ideas and energy from the sun and the stars, and then it comes through my human filter and emerges as flapping of my moving mouth parts in, you know, symbolic phonetic structures here on a video, and also paintings that I've paint over there, and sculptures that I make over here. So I take energy from the sun and the stars, it flows through me, and then I pass it along to you guys. And I mean, like, you know, this is not like having physical offspring. This is sending energy outward. This is, so I'm trying to get past that biological presumption that people have, that you think, oh, my DNA is only connected to my specific ancestry. No, your DNA is connected to the time field. And what you're thinking and doing and feeling is connected to all the rest of the people. Like, let's use just a very basic example. If you're supposed to be, you know, on point A on day 1 doing thing 23, and you're supposed to be there with someone, and if they ain't there, you can't be doing your thing that you're supposed to be doing. You rely upon other people. In many ways, our existences are intertwined profoundly, so that what each one of us is doing, like, you know, whatever is your thing. If you're supposed to be, whatever, getting your tires fixed at the mechanic, if the mechanic is not in existence, you clearly cannot get your tires fixed. So you're in partnership with everybody that is here. In order for you to get the stuff that you need for your life, you have to get that stuff from other people. This is very big. Wait, I'll go back to my face and I'll drink some water. This is very big. I know I'm describing on an anthropomorphic level, but the answer, or the topic that I'm talking about, is love and wholeness and unity and interconnectedness. We are not here completely individuated with requiring nothing from anyone else. No, you know, when you come, I say what you come here with your birthday suit, that's what you need, but you do not come fully formed. You actually need plenty of food. You need food from your mom and your dad, and you need like clothing to wear, and you also need stimulation and thoughts and ideas. That we are fed by much more than just food and water. And I also spoke about the necessity of love, that when you hold a little baby while you're feeding it its bottle or whatever, you're helping that nourishment to actually enter into the child's system. That and the adult version of that is, we're supposed to eat socially. We're supposed to have good conversations, or good, you know, whatever. You're not supposed to eat alone a TV dinner in front of the TV like a robot. That's not what you're supposed to do, because then you don't really thrive. You don't really have your nutrients go inside of you. So the whole thing is that we're supposed to have like a good social moment when we're eating our food, because that helps the food go into your tummy and be digested, because eating is actually very hard. Eating is actually not easy. It's actually very hard. It's something that we have to work hard at, because we've been repurposed from eating pure light. Wait, let me drink some more water. So all of our lives are interconnected. The activities that you are doing. So let's say deep inside, you've always wanted to write a poem or something like that, but you don't do it because you're busy. Like, I'm busy. I have to work my job. I have to drink my coffee and buy my toilet paper. I cannot write a poem right now. But you were supposed to write a poem, and it was supposed to be a piece of information or something that was inspiring, like a food that someone else was supposed to see and read and get food from that they then use on their journey. So all of this is about a refinement. I'm sending out energy ideas that are intended to refine each one of you in your trajectory through time, in the process of decision-making, in the way that you choose what you're doing with each moment. That this is not something that should be directed or dictated to you by some external thing. That's what everybody teaches you. Everybody teaches you, mommy and daddy are supposed to tell you what to do. Your teacher is supposed to tell you what to do. Your principal or your boss or the government or the tax man is supposed to tell you what to do, and that they're supposed to dictate and direct your behaviors throughout the day. That is wrong. That is not what is supposed to happen. If you let someone else, some external thing, dictate your behavior throughout the day, that's what puts you at an angle. So what it is necessary for each one of us to do is to listen to the internal directive. This is why I felt that this was the most important information that I could give to everybody at this moment. We're entering into a mental / consciousness realm or an energetic realm, like a new season, like it's springtime now in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's like, oh, it's a new season. There's new opportunities. You can actually plant a seed and have it burst forth into life. That's something that you can't do when it's wintertime and everything's cold and dead and frozen. We're in a new season in terms of the time field and in terms of what we can do in being personally empowered and in choosing our trajectory. This is big. This means that it's like, here's the keys to the car. You get to go where you want to go. How do you know where to go? How do you know what to do? So most people here have been distorted from their inner directive, from their own innate connection through the abstract chakra on your body, the highest note in your human octave. That is what connects you to the rest of the symphony. That tells you what to play. You actually know what you want to play inside, but we get socialized and acculturated, and that's when you don't get to just do whatever you want to do. So some forms of socialization and being acculturated, some of it has to do with like, you're not allowed to pick your nose in public. Like there's nothing morally or ethically wrong with doing that. It's a natural biological event, but you're not supposed to do it in front of other people. So behavior gets constrained, and it's not just something that is, socially inappropriate. Like, well, look, I can pick my ear in front of you guys. But in some cultures, I can't do that. That's what I mean, socialized and acculturated. So, I've been a professional babysitter. I've worked with little children a lot. And mostly I see young, healthy children moving their bodies very joyfully. Like they want to run, they want to dance, they want to prance, they want to do everything. And mostly the adults around them tell them like, hey, stop, no running, stop wiggling, sit down, don't be good. And that we even say that to them, be good, like stop moving your body so much, be good. And then yes, hopefully you will grow into a sedentary adult who will never move at all. And I, even look at children's bodies, and their bodies are young and healthy and vital and flexible, and they've got, fun, great muscles. And then of course we teach children to sit at their desk every day. And then you get to be a sedentary adult who sits at their desk every day. And then you are no longer allowed to move your body in those body patterns. This is very, very big. This is like breaking a horse or like training a dog, training any kind of an animal to be domesticated. You're not allowed to move your physical structure in the way that you actually want to move it. So a lot of this has to do with casting off those constraints from society that basically, not just in terms of your body. Well, part of it is in terms of your body, because we've been taught to deal with physical discomfort. Like, no, you don't like to sit for 8 hours a day. That's very uncomfortable on your ass. Actually, you want to get up, or you want to wiggle around, or you want to go run outside for a few minutes. And we are taught like, no, you have to sit and you have to focus. So that's part of it. But the other levels of constraint have to do with what you want to do inside. Like you're a little kid, you want to run and prance and play, and that's just what you're doing physically. But you also want to do things with your mentality. You have an inner directive. You're like, oh, I'm fascinated by tadpoles. I want to look at them and learn about them. Or, oh, I want to learn about this. Or, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this project. And socialization and culturalization teaches us that we do we prioritize what others will reward us for. That we say, oh, I have to do my homework because mommy and daddy and my teacher will give me a pat on the head and say, good dog, you did your homework, right? And if you do what you really want to do, which might be write a poem or run around outside like a maniac, then if you don't do your homework, then you don't get rewarded. You don't get the pat on the head. So being a wild, undomesticated child means that you do not get rewarded. You get punished or excluded in some way. So what we learn through reward and punishment is that you're not allowed to follow your inner directive. You got it. And then eventually you become an adult and you have to sell your time for money. None of this is, I'm describing in excruciating detail the symptoms of the disease so we can heal it. None of that is what we're supposed to be doing. Because what happens when you choose to compromise your inner directive is actually related to seeing through time. And I touch these two chakras on the bodies, because on the body rather. This has to do with seeing on an anthropomorphic level, but also seeing on an abstract level. So you could think of this as like, let's use the GPS as an example, because that's how many people navigate now. So there's like the map view. If you turn on your GPS, you can see it and it looks like a map, which is just like a blue line that's telling you with an arrow if you're going in the right direction. But then you can also press a button and you can get like satellite view, or like what the terrain actually looks like. So you can see like, oh, there's a lake there, or there's mountains there. It looks like a photograph. This is the difference between seeing on an anthropomorphic level. That's like seeing the terrain. Oh, I actually see a road. I actually see events in the human realm, as opposed to the map, which is abstraction. And so it's really crucial for us to have both of these aspects of self activated, because you're at a disadvantage if you can only understand the world abstractly, like in terms of potentials and numbers, but not actually see the landscape. Like you can't actually tell, oh, I'm driving past a lake, or there's whatever, a mountain there or something like that. So there's a great value to this. But mostly what's been happening with humans is that humans have not had the map view. Humans have not had that abstract connection to just pure information. Everybody's been kind of stumbling along, half blind, like eyes half closed, kind of looking, squinting through the anthropomorphic view. And it's highly fallible. And many of the things, if you say like, oh, I'm looking through the anthropomorphic view and I'm going to develop a generalized understanding of things, I'm going to apply that to different scenes. It doesn't apply to every single scene. Like what happened in this scenario, you cannot take as a social template and put onto this scenario. It doesn't always translate perfectly. So there are huge vulnerabilities to only being able to access the anthropomorphic level. It's really essential to get to the abstract level. So here's a prediction that I have for everyone. As you cultivate yourself more, cultivate your energy more, develop more of the inner momentum of love and less, friction that slows down your mind and your perception, you will start to perceive directly through your inner vision, both on an anthropomorphic and abstract level, and you'll start to actually see the time field. And you might start to see different possibilities in your own life or in other people's life. And you might actually start to perceive with inner vision, the navigation system, how you can actually switch timelines between these different various possibilities. So now let's talk about the pathway that energy takes as it is going up one of these time cones, because that is a spiral pathway. So first, what I've talked about is the basic circle. Then I've talked about the figure 8 that goes around like this. Then I've talked about pretty much going around a cube, like here's going around a cube, right? The 6 sides of the cube. Now let's talk about how energy actually flows up let's say inward from the outer periphery of these vortex shapes towards the convergence point. So there is a center core timeline that actually, you could think of it as like the tightest spiral possible. It's such a tight, tiny little spiral that it's really just one, like a pole or something like that. But the rest of these are highly exaggerated spirals. So you can see how I'm moving my pen like this, and we'll draw it on the screen too. And also if I were to hold this up like this, it looks like we are spiraling around a record like this. So this is the next level of movement. So, if you're just going around in a circle, you are stuck. There's no way for you to leave the system. You're just like a track athlete running around the track. You don't get off the track, you stay on track. But that's being stuck. That would be like going around here at the periphery, right? So the next level of movement is to not be stuck, but instead to start to spiral. So when I draw the time vortex, and I say we start off at the periphery, go back to here. We're not supposed to start off at the periphery. We're supposed to start off, get a color that you can see. We're supposed to start off here in the middle, and then just go up it's very, very, very tight, curly little curls all the way up the middle like that. That's what we're supposed to do. So the thing that everybody hates in this time and place, that they're like, Calgon, take me away, is that we start off at the periphery. We start off over here where I'm making this black dot line. And then we have to spiral. First, there's just going around the periphery and being stuck in a circle. Hey, that's not very much fun because it's death. That's not actual life. Now I'm getting into the definition of what is death and what is life. It has to do with how you aim your consciousness through time. Are we getting it yet? Because this has to do with like, how do you get conceived as a baby? How do you even get conceived? You're like this floating amorphous thing elsewhere. And you're like, okay, got to get a body, got to get a body. How do you even get a body? You got to get your consciousness aligned with time. And that's like playing the right notes. Because if you don't get aligned, you can't get a body. And this is the brilliance of the composer creator that created this whole entire system. That it was created intentionally so that only if you are a good musician do you get to be in the band. Being a good musician means you learn how to align yourself with time in order to play the right notes. And playing the right notes means thinking the right thoughts or directing your consciousness, and also reverberating or emanating behaviors. And what you think and what you do, reverberates outward like music and affects others. Everybody can hear what you're thinking. Everybody can hear what you're thinking. You would think differently if everybody could hear what you're thinking, wouldn't you? Well, guess what? Everybody can hear what you're thinking. So we start off just in a circle. That's boring. Then what you start off is learning how to spiral upward. And these are, that's an accurate drawing of an energy pathway. I'm always drawing it like these simplified lollipops. Like if I go over here, simplified lollipops going up like this, just for the ease of understanding. And I think I always start from the left, and people think that you fill in kind of like from the left to the right, but no, these all fill in at the same time, all concurrently. So it's seen from the top-down view. It looks like a bullseye, like this. And here's the center, the convergence point that we're heading towards. And we start from the outer periphery, and we begin to spiral inward towards the center. And that's why I say this is just like an old-fashioned analog record. There are millions of possible timelines, millions of possible time spirals or pathways that go up this vortex, but they all terminate on the actual membrane that you don't want to be on, the membrane of death. All of those spirals terminate on the membrane of death. There's only one pathway that does not. This is also like saying you have to shape yourself correctly. You have to be in the right shape and the right alignment in order to be an eternal being, or in order to achieve eternal life. This is very, very different than a type of statement about like getting into Christian heaven. Like in order to go to heaven, or the heaven that is described in the Judeo-Christian Bible, you have to be a good person, you have to do this and that, you have to kiss somebody's butt, you have to tithe, or you have to do something like that. This is not about that at all. That's also like saying following the 10 Commandments, or following the 613 commandments of the Jewish Torah. The idea of taking a person and directing their behavior through a series of rules, like rules in a board game or something like that. If you do this, do this. If you do this, do this. Collect $200. Like that is not how we are supposed to navigate, because we are in a world that is constantly shifting, and the templates, like always do this, never do this. In this situation, always do this, never do this. The templates don't apply equally, and they become confused. And this is the problem that has happened. So behavioral prescriptions that might have been appropriate 5,000 years ago are no longer appropriate now. Social contact matters. A series of rules was created that said, always do this and never do this, and do this in this way and do this in this way. And many of those rules have been maintained in this Judeo-Christian culture, even though they are no longer appropriate or relevant. And that's like saying, oh, every time you hear this note, play this note. But that's not necessarily the music that you're supposed to play. So we have religious rules from many thousands of years ago that tell humans the types of patterns that they're supposed to make with consciousness and with behavior, and even in terms of death. And we also have modern, social culturalization about, what our parents, schooling, and government are teaching us to do. And all of this is an insult to the inner directive. Your DNA is an antenna, and it picks up the directive of the great composer, the great conductor, that is telling you what to play and what notes to play and when to play them. It's the great conductor that tells you, like, hey, you need to write a poem. You're like, but I gotta do my taxes and go to the grocery store and do all these things. I don't have time to write a poem. That's the appropriately constructed survival mechanism of your personality that is saying that. I don't want anyone to think like, oh, you're not supposed to have that. You're supposed to have that. If you didn't have that, you might be homeless or starving, because we live in a world that is full of arbitrary and aberrant rules. But it's like a board game. But if you follow those rules, you can win the game. You can get money, you can get food. So we understand the value of that aspect of self, that construct that says, oh, in order to get what I need, I have to follow the rules of mom and dad and school and government. However, there's the inner directive. And the inner directive is really telling you whether you are close to the membrane of death or not close to the membrane of death. So now let's just use my pen as an example. Like if we're oriented like this, moving through time, you're doing really great. But let's say, I'm getting close to the membrane of death. Look, my pen has almost hit the membrane of death. That you can feel that inside. Everyone, even if you are not adept, even if you're not awakened with your insight, as you're moving through time, you can feel whether you're in the right life. You can feel whether you're on the right path. So if you're not on the right path, you might feel dissatisfied with your life, angry, agitated, unfulfilled, which is pretty much like most people, right? That's not how you're supposed to feel. And when it gets really, really, when you're like almost at the, like you're almost driving off a cliff, you might feel a really strong urgency, a really strong inner directive, like, I have to change my job, or I have to get out of this unfulfilling relationship, or I have to move, or I have to do something. Like, you can feel it inside. If you follow your inner directive, you get to stay alive. You're like, oh, I'm almost hitting the membrane of death. I really need to change my career. I really need to change, whatever my living situation, just like my roommates or whatever. And then what happens is you recalibrate by tiny increments. So let's say a small choice, like saying you're going to live in the same town, but maybe move to a different apartment or have different roommates. Maybe your roommates aren't good. Maybe they're always like smoking and drinking and staying up too late, and you're trying to live a good life and, be happy and healthy and do yoga. Like, I can't do my yoga. These people are so horrible. So you're like, you know what? I'm almost at the membrane of death. I'm on the wrong path. I think I'm going to choose to move out and find better roommates. There you go. You just avoided the membrane of death. But then let's say you still hate your job. You still hate working at the donut shop. You still hate this. You still hate that. So these are like, we're constantly trying to fine tune, to change the events of our life so that what we're experiencing is the version of life that is our true self. That you have to believe that there is a great composer, a great scriptwriter, that is writing a life for you that is like the best life, that where your talents and skills and abilities and everything that you are is being shared with the world. That's your eternal life. That's your eternal pathway. That is that central core timeline. And so first of all, that's an inevitability. That's something that is in everybody. We are all here as our job on earth in this human experience. We're here with the motivation to refocus our energy and consciousness away from the periphery and towards that central core timeline. You can also think of this like light, or like any money, any kind of thing. So we're talking now about the time field of many of these stacked up next to each other, and I'll show, they move. So you want to have all of your energy focused on the things that you want to have happen, and not any of it dispersed on the stuff you don't want to have happen. Let's use the garden as an example. You want to water the delicious tomatoes. You do not want to water the weeds. So let's say you have a little drip irrigation system. You put the little irrigators right next to the plants that you want. You don't just spray the water everywhere. And also you don't put the little irrigation next to plants that are weeds that you don't want, okay? Same exact thing in the time field. We do not want to energize or put energy into, with our awareness, consciousness, and experience, these areas that are the membrane of death. These are all of the distant, distorted, peripheral possibilities of your life that you don't want to experience. They're the far outliers, the things that aren't supposed to happen. They're not supposed to happen for a reason, because they create suffering and death, and they end the journey of energy, and energy is supposed to keep on flowing eternally. There's reasons why you don't want to send energy there. So let me go back to the whiteboard. The time field is alive. It's an entire living structure, and it's made up of many, many individuated lives put together, just like the way that your body is made up of many individuated cells that fit together. And just like your cells have a cellular metabolism, so your cells in your body, they take oxygen from the red blood cells that are flowing by. They're like, ooh, oxygen, yoink, I'll take that. I need some of that. And they let go of carbon dioxide and waste materials. They're like, here, have some carbon dioxide in exchange and some waste. Take it out of the body. That is essential for you to stay alive. If your little cells aren't doing that little trade, if they're not bartering and trading and sending energy in the right way, you get to die. You don't get to be alive because you're not playing the right notes on your piano anymore. Same exact thing in the time field. You're supposed to have energy that bounces back and forth between these two places. So this is the singularity here, this is the singularity here, it's all the same singularity. And of course, there's one up here, and there's one up here. And we are supposed to have a pattern of energy that's bouncing back and forth along this pathway between these two singularities. And that's actually involving several different individuated organisms. So if I just do a different color, just like find a different color here. Here's one individuated organism, this box that I just drew over here, right? That's one life experience. And here's a different individuated organism, a different life experience. And what is happening in terms of energetic partnership is that these two life experiences are bouncing back and forth between the convergence point together. I know the words don't really make sense. Think of this like a trampoline over here, where this big black line that I'm making, right? And we can have energy that emerges from here and hits here and then bounces back here, and same thing over here. Or you could think of it like we have energy that is coming from this black dot in this direction, and also from this black dot in this direction. And when they meet in the middle, it's just like building the Channel Tunnel between England and France. They had to meet from both sides. They have to meet in the middle just right. And then they have not explosion, but like an energy transference. And then they bounce off of each other and they go in the other direction. And then what happens when the energy goes bouncing from here back over to here, right? In both directions, back over to here. We also at the same time have energy that's coming from here, bouncing to here. So then we get another energy convergence and energy expansion that sits over here, hits into more energy convergence and expansion. Energy convergence and expansion. Ooh, I'm hitting into things. I'm so excited. And this is also happening along all of these axes. So this is also happening along this axis up here, up, we would call it whatever, up and down. I'm pressing things, I don't know what's going on. Up and down over here. It also happens over here and going in this direction. And once again, there are patterns. It makes movements with my hands. There are patterns apart, together, up, down, side, side, up, down. So let's say we have 4 basic notes, up, down, side, side. We can do all sorts of different patterns with the 4 notes that we have, and you can essentially make up the entire, every single different type of song that's ever been made out of those 4 notes. 4 amino acids. You got 4 amino acids to play with here. So the energy that's coming from these different positions of the same singularity needs to align. It needs to be in partnership with all these things. It's all you. Then I go back to my face. It's all you. Well, I just say what you're looking at right here, everything that I'm squiggling over right now, it's all you. In order to make that claim, it's necessary to dilate your identity and claim other faces as your own. And this is, I just drew like 3 of these arrays together, but there's a countless number of arrays. If I had a room, a warehouse-sized studio, everybody get me a warehouse-sized studio. I would build this. I would build an entire array, and it would be moving, and you could see the way all these things fit together, or it could be animated very well. And the more variables that you make, the more complex the patterns can become in terms of move the cursor, in terms of energy moving with each other. So now let's say that something happens. And when I talk about this, you could think here you are in alignment, here you are going askew. But you can also think here you are in alignment, here you are going askew. So what might happen in an imperfect world, go back to the whiteboard. Wait, let me clear everything out, I'm sure. Can you clear that all out? Clear it all out. So let's say we've got a nice perfect, this is really hard to draw, perfect one over here, because I started really small. Here, you can get it though. This is way too hard. Hold on, clear it all out. Sorry, let's do it better in a bigger thing. Here's bigger version. Oh, this is really hard to draw. the pen doesn't always go where you want it to. Okay, you've got, let's say, a couple of lives that are super awesome and they're in perfect alignment and they're musicians that are playing the right notes and they're super wonderful and fantastic. There you go. But then you have one that is tilted at an angle like this. And then you can start to understand how the energy patterns cannot flow effectively just because of the graphic arrangement of the way these shapes are put together. Like if we're supposed to have, just get a different color here. If we're supposed to have, ooh, these two places touching and they don't touch, then you can't pass the baton from one person to the other person. And oh, these two places don't touch either. Like if one life is out of alignment, then that affects the other lives around it. And so let's say that you're making a compromise. Instead of writing your poem, being in perfect alignment like this, you've decided, oh, I'm going to compromise and get a stupid job and then I will not write my poem. Well, you just went like this. And not only are you heading towards the membrane of death, and now you're not going to live your eternal life because you're not choosing to follow the inner directive and do the right things, do say and feel and experience the right things that make you an eternal being. P.S. You earn your righteous body through righteous deeds. And when I say righteous, I mean like playing the right notes. So yeah, if you do exercises, you earn your muscles by doing exercises. If you follow your inner directive, then you get to be alive because you've done the right things. And yes, it's very hard to do the right things in this time and place because the right things are often not rewarded. They're often sometimes even punished. But whatever. They ain't going to arrest me for singing in the supermarket. So if you're making a compromise in your life, it's not just affecting your own life. It's not just affecting little old you. It's affecting everything that you're connected to. Because let's say if you're a musician and you're supposed to be collaborating with another musician, that would be like if that guy who you're supposed to collaborate with is in perfect alignment like this. He's living his best life. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Like, good. Like, you got your guitar and you're supposed to play with me. But what if he's like, no, I decided not to play the guitar and I decided instead to work a sensible job being a dental hygienist? Then not only does that guy not have a guitar and he's not there to jam with you, but that is affecting you and your trajectory. And now you have to have a band with no guitar because he's busy cleaning people's teeth. Cleaning people's teeth is great, but not if you're supposed to be doing something else. And this is the genius of understanding the way that this larger time system is set up. And all you have to do in order to be a good musician is literally follow your inner directive. So if you become hugely distorted, if you're out of shape of who you really are, it might take a journey to reconnect with yourself and to figure out who you are and learn to listen to the inner directive again. This is for someone who might have worked at a cubicle job or whatever at their distorted profession for many decades, or maybe never even had a chance to explore who they truly are. So some of us, like I'm an artist, I follow my inner directive, even if I don't have a lot of money as a result of it, which is what I'm trying to say. That society will not necessarily reward you for following your inner directive. However, you get to live eternal life. That's, I think, a really good, exchange. I mean, of course, I want to have plenty of money. I want to be happy and healthy and make my electrons flow in a wire, but not at the expense of losing my eternal life. And this is the story of humanity. This is the story of how we got into this situation, that we used to be light eaters that never experienced death, and all that we experienced was eternal life. And the invaders to our planet changed our genome, changed our connection to time, and also changed our motivation for behavior. Kind of like the dangling carrot, like, oh, you want food, you better do something for it. And then you work for treats, and then you don't write your poems anymore. So that's actually lesson 18. Today I did not have the organizational time and focus to devote to doing lesson 18 because it's big and it's basically about the planetary invasion. So I need to do lesson 18, all about the planetary invasion, how that affected our DNA. And then after we establish that, then I'll do the lesson that's about cancer. I think that'll make a lot more sense. And I'll also do the lesson about, I call it Christianity, but it should be called Judeo-Christianity, about human religion. So that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. And this is a combined level 1 and 2 presentation here. So what I was just talking about in terms of energy pathways, that's level 1. Now let's do advanced. which is understanding how energy flows around the flying rainbow lasagna shape. Because this is the basic shape. And this is what humanity has been experiencing in terms of distortion and constraint for many, many millennia. And this is the new shape. This is the new shape. When I say we've entered into a new realm, this is what I'm talking about, guys. And I know it's been like an 18-year-long transition with much, difficulty in order to get here. But we're definitely here. I'm squinting because I'm looking for my, I don't know if I have my animation ready. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get my animation out. Here. Good. I already do that while I'm so let me just go to share my desktop. So now we've got the animation over here. So the first thing I was talking about was that you have these circular patterns and then figure 8 patterns, right? And part of the figure 8 patterns are the creation of that membrane of death. A happy little name for the membrane of death, which ends up being this curve right here, this black line right here, and ends up being this black line right here too. Hope that you can start to see this. Oh, so wait. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on, undo. Before I get into lasagna, I feel like I'm faking you out here, guys. Hold on a second. Let me go back to something else that I want to show you. How does energy flow when it flows around this shape? So it goes, remember this shape over here is deconstructed. The one on the left is deconstructed. How does it flow when it flows? So let's go from, I'm trying to figure out how I can depict this. How can you even see this? Go to this one instead. No, you can't see it. It flows inward, but not in a linear sense. This is too hard to show on this. It goes in like this, right? But then when it hits that center convergence point, it goes through a doorway. And the doorway opens on this periphery over here. And then spirals inward like this. And then when you get to that convergence point, it's like a doorway that opens, but it does not open to the same room. It opens over to here. And then you spiral inward like this. And then you get to the doorway, but the doorway does not open to the same room. It opens out here onto green. And then you spiral inward like this. The doorway opens. You find yourself at the perimeter over here, and you spiral inward to green. And the doorway opens over here, and you spiral inward to indigo, and then you spiral inward to violet. So it's not a direct journey. It's not like, oh, we just started from red, and we spiral directly inward back to the singularity. It is necessary to go through each of the layers. So first you go through red, then you go through orange, then you go through yellow, then green, then light blue, then dark blue, then violet, and then you have finally hit the singularity, okay? So now that we've established and we understand on that, now I gotta show you lasagna, because lasagna means adding an additional dimension. And get a better color so you can see here. First of all, where I'm scribbling in black, this is the additional dimension that I have added. You could think of it like empty space. You could think of it like filler. It's a place where you don't go. Energy doesn't go there. So it looks like empty space in this animation. Let's talk about the energy that flows round and round. Remember these round and round on the edges over here, like a square, running around like this. When we lasagna, that energy goes like this. One up like this and one down like this. Look at that. So I'm just going to redraw. What used to happen was we had a full vortex. Like here was the other half of the vortex, and it went down like this, right? We don't have that anymore. Now we have a half vortex, and it swoops up like this. So we used to have, here's a whole circle circling all around. That's on those 6 different sides. But now what we get is one part of the circle is like that, and one part of the circle is like that. It's kind of like an unfurled circle. And the energy goes all around the perimeter of the flying rainbow lasagna. So if I'm showing you on this sculpture and I'm tracing with my finger, the energy goes up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way around the periphery, all the way around the perimeter. And what happens with the other colors? So, okay, with the other shape, the other form, this form, in order to, just when I pause like that, I'm trying to figure out what are the right words. How do I describe this with English language? In order to like get through the different levels, the different layers of color, you have to go up and down the ladder. Like you can't just jump, like I'm going to jump orange. Oh, that's not true. You can jump orange to orange. The way that they're arranged, here, well, I'll just use black. Here, let's draw this for you. So this is the basic shape of the chakras that are all nested together. And you have kind of like, we'll do this properly. You have kind of like, these are where the convergence points will be. You'll see what I'm talking about. I wish I could beam this directly into your brain. These are what the little shapes look like. The little, and I'm not making them, hold on, let me draw it better. There we go. So the simplification, it looks kind of like a pagoda. You understand, all right? So I'm not going to draw all of them, but you understand. That's where they fit together, where I just drew that. This is so hard to draw. That's where they fit together. And one more was right like that, like that. Okay, I know it's relatively messy, whatever. So these places where I'm scribbling in very, very heavy black marker, those are the places where the chakras or energy centers touch or kiss or converge or allow energy transference in this format. So let's say you want to transfer energy from red to red. Hey, no problem. Red to red because they fit together right there. Red touches red right there. Hey, how about orange to orange? Can orange fit together with orange in this? Yes, it can. It fits together right freaking there. And let's do yellow just so you get an idea. The next one, it fits together right over there. You can barely see yellow, but you know what I'm talking about. So let's say, according to this format of things, want to transfer orange emotional energy from one person to another person with orange emotional energy. You do it directly, orange to orange. This is a totally different approach than the flying rainbow lasagna, where due to the additional dimension here, the colors other than red, the physical world, they do not touch directly. So I already established that with the flying rainbow lasagna, you have energy patterns that flow around the perimeter like that, and that's one long unbroken loop. But how about the rest of the colors? What does orange do? So orange goes up like this, right? And then you cannot see the other orange. It's going to be down here underneath here. It goes down like this. And then it jumps back over to here and it goes up like this. I'm going to make a different color. Again, if you can see that color. Here. There is nothing connecting these two things. There's empty space there. There's a higher dimensional place. There's not a physical connection between those two things. So the energy flows around the lasagna in a different way, where I'm making this, green highlight. Can you see that? You cannot see that. Let's find a different color. Where I'm making this big black line here. There are doorways there. There are portals there. Just like I spoke about the doorway that's at the center over here, you go through the door, but then it pops you out into another spot. That's what happens with energy going around this shape. So let's use yellow as an example because you can see it more easily in this depiction. Energy goes up and around the yellow outer perimeter, right? And then it gets to here. There's a little doorway. It has to go through the doorway and jump all the way down to here. And then it hits into yellow and it goes around, and then it has to go through a little doorway. And it has to jump all the way up to here. Then it comes in through this doorway right here and goes around the edge. So you end up having a lot more interdimensional jumping in terms of energy patterns with the flying rainbow lasagna. In order to make energy flow around this shape, it is necessary to go through interdimensional doorway portals. I hope that makes sense. Oh my goodness. And at the same time so we have energy flowing kind of in this wavy lasagna shape and doing these jumps, right? It jumps and it jumps and it jumps and it jumps. At the same time that we've got that, we've also got what? We've got the rotation and the spin. I think I can actually show that to you with the animation. We've got the spinning around, right? Then we've also got the up and down movement of, yep, we got the color, of this motion to this motion down here. We've got up and down, this pen is hard to work with, up and down motion jumping back and forth between those two places. And that's that same straight line that I was drawing on the whiteboard. That is the straight line that goes up the center of the time vortex. That same straight line that is jumping up and down and being mirrored back and forth. So there's basic flowing of energy patterns. There's a basic straight line, and then there's a circle. That's what we got to work with here, guys. We're building the entire cosmos based entirely on these two energy structures. Okay, so what does all this mean? What does all this even mean? Because if I play this, play. Just wanted to get to a better angle so you can see the lasagna a little bit better. There we go. Okay. This area over here, where I'm saying it's a membrane of death, there's interdimensional jumping that has to happen in order to create the lasagna and have energy flow around it in that sense. What is happening here? We are rearranging the skin of the torus. And the skin of the torus are the end results of all of the combinations of thoughts and ideas and energy, and the end result of the equation of your life. It's like this plus this plus this plus this plus this equals this, your death. That's it. So let me go back to my face. Each one of us is having this awakening. I'll get to the chat and the questions. As you begin to see, and with insight more, as you begin to see through time more, you'll begin to see exactly what I was describing in your own life and in other people's lives. You will be able to see how each person, it's almost like looking down the time tunnel. The person who you are right here is the end result of all of the previous slices of time or moments that have been stacked up like slices of bread that are what make the big giant backstory of who you are. So if you see through this anthropomorphic, feature, what you're looking down the time tunnel, you're looking at a person, you'd see who they are at this moment right now, and then you'd see who they were last year and who they were a couple of years ago, all the way going back to being a little tiny infant, and dependent upon where they are in their time tunnel. So if you're in a peripheral time tunnel, then you'll see the person who they are right here looking back to the events that led them to this moment. But let's say you are in this central core timeline. You'll see the person who you are right now, all of the events going back to that initial starting point where you're supposed to start, which is over here. This possibility over here that leads up the front. So it becomes possible to understand where people are in their trajectory in the time field, and I'll go good. We'll get there. Where people are in their trajectory in the time field. So I talk about this too. Wait, hold on a second. Let me just get a little bit of water. Hold on one second. Richard Feynman. This is what I'm trying to talk about here. He was a physicist in the 1950s. Oops, I'm dropping my fragile sculpture. And I'm not in a total endorsement of him as a person and everything that he ever said, but he came up with this interesting idea about photons being emitted from the sun or the stars and coming out and then rewinding in their journey, that there's only one photon, and that everything that we are experiencing is the journey of that one single photon. So I'm the photon, you're the photon, but we are on different trajectories. So at one point, the photon is emitted from the central convergence point, singularity that is in the sun, and comes on a particular pathway, like a loop, out into reality, makes kind of like a flower petal shape, and then returns back to the central convergence point. And then it gets emitted again. Hey, didn't I just describe that to you earlier in this class when I talked about that circular loop that keeps happening all the way around the torus? That's exactly what I said. So his ideas were kind of more on the anthropomorphic level, the idea of a photon that gets emitted and it comes back and back and back. And this is more on the sense of an abstract level, the idea that there is an energy pathway that keeps on being emitted, and that there's a process of learning and refinement that happens. It's not even the sense of learning like when you learn something intellectually. It's more almost a mechanical learning. Like if you're like, okay, we have these various different things that we have to kind of figure out. Like, is it this one? Nope, we tried that one. It's not that one. Is it this one? Nope, we tried that one. This one? Nope, we tried that one. This one? Nope, we tried that one. Then it's gotta be this one because we tried all these other ones. It is more of a mechanical learning process. So the good news is that you don't have to, in the old-fashioned way, go through every single negative possibility that ends in death before you actually find the right calculation that ends in eternal life. That's the old approach. And that is very boring and long and tedious and filled with suffering. This is the whole point of why I'm here. So I'm flying rainbow lasagna. I invented the flying rainbow lasagna shape as a way to rearrange the events on the membrane of death. So that means that this shape is jumping up and down and creates this shape. The membrane of death is along here. The membrane of death is along here. These are some of the places where we are hopping interdimensionally. You can begin hopping interdimensionally around the events that you do not wish to experience, such as whatever, dying, being thrown from a building or crushed in a car, or any of the things that lead to your death. And it means that you can finally start aligning effectively with the central core timeline that you actually wish to be a part of. So a big distinction to make here is that as your higher faculties come online, you start to be able to see time. It's not like, oh, awesome, now I can see time and I can see what's coming in my future, but I'm powerless to change it. No, that would be horrible. That would be like, whatever, powerlessness, information, but with powerlessness would be still torment, and you wouldn't be able to change your suffering. So there's two things that need to be fixed on the car, on the vehicle of humanity. Cleaning off the windscreen means, oh, I can actually see where the heck I'm going. And also fixing the steering wheel, because up until this point, humanity has not had control of its own steering wheel, of your own life, in terms of the dance of your DNA and your trajectory through time. This is also relating to lesson 18, which is planetary invasion. Basically, the use of technology to make your car go where some larger malevolent thing /system/AI wants it to go, as opposed to your natural inclination. So I spoke about the culturalization that says, oh, mommy and daddy or the church or the government tells you what to do with your life. You don't get to make your own choices or think your own thoughts. That's part of it. But then there's more to that even in the sense of your internal reality, your internal emotional space, what you think, what you feel, there's this invader. There's a genetic invader, and at this point there's a consciousness invader, the self-assembling smart dust that's spraying in our air. And this is something that Buddha from whatever, thousands of years ago did not have to deal with that. Buddha did not have to achieve his enlightenment under a sky full of chemtrails. There are different rules now for this time and place, because I'm telling you, if you're going to try and like sit and meditate with all the chemtrails, so here's what's the challenge? What's the problem? Okay, Buddha, all he had to do was sit and meditate and be like, okay, what's the real me? What's not the real me? What's it on a genetic level, right? Your genes are an antenna. I'm picking up, here's some horrible music. That's not the real me. And here's some other music. That's the real me. That's what Buddha had to do. He had to just listen for this. That's the real me. I'm going to feed those thoughts and feelings and go away from this, horrible other chaotic stuff. We don't have that luxury. We don't have that simplicity and that ease, because we have not only what we are picking up with our genetic antenna, beautiful, natural, divine music, and horrible, disruptive music, but then we also have fibers in additional antenna that's been implanted into our biology. I'm not here to rain on your parade. I'm here to give you information and assistance So that what I'm talking about, what we are polluted with, and it's in every organism. It's not just humans, it's everything. There is, you could call it smart dust, it's nano, it's chem crap. It is self-assembling tiny particles that create a tiny fiber system in an attempt to hijack human biology and turn it into what I call wetware. So it's like implanted programming materials to turn humans into programmable robots. Buddha didn't have to deal with that. So this challenge for us to reach our core timeline and achieve eternal life in this context right now means we not only have to distinguish between our true music on a genetic level and genetic invaders. And genetic invaders, it's like whatever. I don't have to define it. I think you know what I'm talking about. It's thought, consciousness that are not really who you are, and personality aspects and characteristics that are not who you really are. And much of the violence and psychopathology is not who we really are. Violence and psychopathology that's not your real music. That comes from the genetic invaders. So trying to distinguish in terms of thoughts, like if you're having a perfectly nice conversation with someone, but you have an intrusive thought that's like, I want to pick up a rock and smash them in the head. Like that is, the genetic invader. That's not who you really are. And on top of that, we've got freaking nanotechnology in our naturally occurring biology and neurology that is implanting thoughts and feelings into us. So the nanostructures, or whatever we want to call it, there's synthetic telepathy, call it voice decay, V2K, voice to skull, voice of God. These are from intelligence agencies or human operating organizations that are mostly, government and military. And they're influenced by malevolent extraterrestrials. That's who's pulling their strings. They're beaming synthetic telepathy into your mind also. And then there is off-planet AI that is also influencing thought structure through the actual nascent circuitry. So our challenge is much, much greater at this moment in history than it ever has been before. And the challenge is so great because we are at this moment of pure potential, where it's like they're huge risk, but huge return. So we're in this moment right now when our manifestation powers are coming online, and we are becoming more than our, I want to say, small or mere human, more than what is defined as humanity according to the past. This is humanity according to the past, where it's like, oh, I'm going to take away your ability to see, and I'm going to take away your steering wheel, and I'm just going to make you go through every single possible wrong note on the symphony, creating tons of death and tons of suffering. And then you'll finally get to enlightenment. Don't worry, it'll be great. When you fly in Rainbow Lasagna, you don't have to play every single wrong note. You can actually awaken your higher faculties, be able to perceive what is going on. So being able to see through the windscreen is essential to being able to make good choices. And then the other thing is using your willpower, the steering wheel on your car, to actually drive down the roads of time that you wish to drive down. So if you do not wish to drive down the road of time where you die in any way, you don't have to do that. But let's say religion has programmed you to say, suffering is noble, death is inevitable, a savior will resurrect you. If you're believing in that, then you're going to use your willpower to drive into the membrane of death and then wait patiently for your resurrection. Like, ho-hum, is it time to get resurrected yet? I don't know. I'm sitting here on the membrane of death. Please don't do that. And I'm not some devilish devil woman trying to take you away from your religion. No, I'm saying that your religion has a logical inconsistency that says in order to reach eternal life, you must first die and then be redeemed somehow. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying avoid the membrane of death entirely. That's not what we were ever supposed to experience. And when you reach that moment of eternal life and you reconnect to the convergence point, you emit again. That all of these emissions are you. So you do one perfect circle and come back to the beginning. That's you. And you don't stop being you while you do the next perfect circle and come back to the beginning. And then you're still you while you do the next perfect circle and come back to the beginning. So there's a process of refinement that happens going from wrong angles to right angles and figuring out the trajectory of where you're supposed to go. So when you meet someone that is pathological or unhealthy in some way. They have not yet learned, how am I supposed to fly through time? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to fly? How am I supposed to do this? Let me drink more. They are still crashing into the membranes of death. They haven't learned yet. So they're aspects of self, they're you, but they're the aspects of self that haven't learned SHIT yet. Like, they don't know SHIT. So you don't have to let them walk all over you. You are the refined aspect of self. You're like, I can see that coming from a mile away. That ain't going to walk all over me. Because no one has to learn their life lessons all over you. Like, that's one of the things that I take issue with in terms of religion, that talks about the nobility and necessity of suffering. If you believe in that, like the necessity of the, crucifixion of the religious savior, then like, I want to be like the religious savior, and I want to let that wrecking ball crash into me because then I can save it. No. The way that you actually save the world is by not letting the wrecking ball crash into you, not letting it harm you on your trajectory. You stay alive and you keep on being an eternal being. And when you make these circles and when you change circles, you can change identity with having continuity of consciousness. Let me say that phrase again. You change these circular patterns. I'm making a new revolution, a new circle, a new life, a new emanation, and then return. And each time you do that, there's a sense of self, there's a sense of individuation. You don't lose your sense of self, but you recognize the different qualities of each of these life experiences. You maintain continuity of consciousness. So continuity of consciousness means, like, if you're a lucid dreamer, you're awake, you go through the membrane of going to sleep, you go into your dream state, then you emerge through the membrane of coming into wakefulness, and you remember the entire journey. And there's a qualitative difference between being awake or being asleep, different mind states. There can be qualitative differences between different life experiences. Continuity of consciousness means you remember, oh, first I was that butterfly flying around over there. Now I'm this guy sitting here. Then I'm a crocodile swimming through the river. Like, that's what it is. But you have a distinguished sense of these different organisms that you are, but you recognize that it's you, and you have continuity of consciousness. And I use that as a linear example, but really this is a non-linear journey. So you're the butterfly while you're the human, and you're the crocodile. You're all of these things at the same time. That is unity consciousness. This is unity consciousness. And I'm not religious in sharing this with you. Like, no, I'm not trying to be a proselytizer in any way. I'm trying to give factual information, kind of like math. 1 + 1 = 2. This is what unity consciousness is. So again, to make a distinction, I'm not along the lines of any kind of religious teacher that says, follow the rules. Like let's use music as an example. If I said to you, follow the rules, this note shall always follow this note in every song that you write going forward. You'd be like, okay, Aurora's my music teacher. I'm always going to do this like this because she tells me this. That's like following the Bible. And I am not here to cast aspersions upon the Bible, but I'm here to say that that is a historical document from thousands of years ago that's been heavily distorted and edited, and also all the things that are written in there are no longer relevant in the way that we currently live, so you have to radically reassess the cultural context from which it emerges and the way that it's been changed. So what is much more effective is to say, follow your inner directive, because divinity or God or whatever we want to call it is an alive being that is here trying to connect with you in this very moment. And it doesn't connect with you from a person on a pulpit or a book that is external. It connects with you internally through your genetic antenna. Who's speaking to you through your genetic? Hello, I'm on the genetic antenna. Who's speaking to you? Well, there's crap. There's crap from synthetic telepathy. There's crap from society. There's crap from evil musicians that are stuck on the membrane of death. And then there's also divinity. So if you're able to make these distinctions between what is crap and what is divinity, then you can listen effectively and follow the inner directive and make good choices and have an eternal life. So now finally over to chat. Jockey says, in the Emerald Tablets, Tehote. So let's also talk about this. Thoth. Some people pronounce this being as Thoth. In ancient Egypt, it is Tehote. All right. So the 7 is the Lord of the vastness, master of space, key of the times. Yes. So the idea of there being 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 chakras or energy centers of your body. There's a reason why 7 is a significant number. And Newton that's where we get our modern optics and understanding of the rainbow comes from. You know, he was like, not a superstitious person, but apparently had some sense of the esoteric significance of 7. That's why Newton's experiments with the prism and refracting light yielded 7 divisions. Why not just make blue 1 and then you have six colors of the rainbow? Because he specifically wanted there to be 7. So yeah, there's a significance to the number 7. And in terms of the circle, it's very, very difficult to divide a circle into 7 equal segments. It becomes an unstable situation. So that's just an interesting side note or whatever. And Joelle, thank you. I'm happy that you tuned in today, and sorry that I wasn't able to be here for the past 2 weeks for a variety of different things. Hello, Ron. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the compliment. Yeah, you know, so I have a few more minutes here before it's the end of the class. So, you know, I was going to speak technically, so this stuff about energy patterns, I just had to share with you so that you can tell, like, you'll begin to see these things. You will begin to see these things with your inner vision. And I won't dictate to you what it will look like or how you will perceive it, but I will tell you that you will begin to see them. You'll begin to experience. This is empowering information. I just changed my mind of what I wanted to say. All of this is empowering information about multiple timelines and multiple personalities, not personalities, possibilities. All of this is empowering information about multiple timelines, multiple possibilities, let's say multiple versions of yourself and your trajectory through time. And I describe it to you so that, just like if you're in Lamaze classes, like when you have the baby, this is what you will be experiencing, to prepare you for what is coming up in your own personal experience, or which might already be unfolding. Joelle says, when you recognize the feeling of the voice of divinity inside, you can never go back to be deceived again. Very good point. Thank you. It is the most beautiful, humbling, connected, expansive feeling. More often, my inner vision sees patterns and energy than actual beings, places, and things. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. And that's a really, let me drink a little bit, good segue into seeing on the anthropomorphic level. So when a lot of people start to raise their energy and open their inner eye, they do a lot of seeing on the anthropomorphic level. And that might mean having visions of faces, of organisms, of something like a butterfly or a crocodile or a man with a beard or a snake or any kind of thing like that. So some people take DMT and they see things that are on the anthropomorphic level. It looks like a representational painting. However, if you break on through to the other side, you will get to the next level of seeing and perception, which is pure abstraction, which is what Joelle is talking about, patterns and energy. And that is seeing on the abstract level. So if you see red energy patterns that have a particular, nested proportional quality to them, that's what you're seeing. You're not interpreting it as an organism, a snake, a butterfly, any of those things, or any of the baggage that comes with interpreting it on that level. If you see a snake, then you think like, oh, this is an organism. It lives on this planet. It has this mating habit. It has this eating habit. Like all of those things go by the wayside. So I would encourage everyone to cultivate their inner seeing to the point of pure abstraction, because it's really easy to make mistakes when we begin to see and interpret symbols on merely the human or anthropomorphic level. That's not the most effective way to use your gas in your car or to use your time that you book on your expensive telescope. Like, you don't have to look at the energy on a human level. Save your money and look at it on an abstract level and then apply that to your human experience. Okay. Joelle, so wait. So my criticism is that so many people are spending their energy looking on the anthropomorphic level. So that means doing some kind of hypnosis regression and looking into your past lives. Like, yeah, you had past lives. You had concurrent lives. You've been everything. You've been everyone. A lot of it's like farting around on the human level when you don't have to, when you can transcend the human level and go into pure color and shape and number. Come on over, girl. She's over there. That's a different way of understanding the world much more accurately. So Joelle also says, you said something about losing immortality. Is that actually possible? Can you speak about that a little bit more? because I'm sitting here with a cloud of confusion. When I say losing immortality, I mean what happened with our planetary invasion like 10 or 20,000 years ago. We were all immortals. And I want everyone in this class, I want you all to start thinking of yourself in that way. Like, you're not this stupid little human that has to worry about the electric bill and buying the coffee and stupid mundane tasks and mowing the lawn. No, you are an exalted being, like a special, magical person. And we've been made to live in these constraints, or in this limited format for a long time, but that's not who you really are. We're immortals. We all were here at the time of Atlantis, and we lived in a world where nobody died, where everybody came, was embodied, lived in a state of total health and vitality, and like, whatever, you could run all day and never feel tired. That was the time of the immortals. It was the time before death was invented. Then death came to this planet. And one of the ways in which humans lost immortality was in selling one's time for food or for something that you need in return. So before that planetary invasion, everything was an art form. The way that you moved through time was a dance. You don't just move through time like a hinky-jinky, I just got to move through time. Everything was a dance, specific and graceful and doing what you need to do. And Jose Argüelles has really good work on this. Not a total endorsement of who he was as a person. I always say that. However, I'm very impressed by his work. He was a teacher of Mayan calendar ideas and ideals. So he did a lot of work about reforming our relationship to time in terms of the Gregorian calendar, the solar-based calendar, and how that bifurcation of the months does not fit effectively with our natural time rhythms. But he also speaks about time being art. That's what we are supposed to do. Our movement through time is supposed to be our art. And that is what my flying rainbow lasagna dance is. It is my art form in time. So when I say this, what I mean is, when you wake up in the morning, the movements that you make and the things that you do are supposed to be a dance. They're supposed to be an expression that is symbolic and meaningful, not random, arbitrary, and ugly. So this is noise. It's not beautiful. It's not structured. It's not symbolic. Here's music. So if you wake up in the morning and you start to think very specific thought forms and perform specific body movements and generate beauty in some way, that's how you're supposed to move through time. In our industrialized world, that is not how we move through time. You wake up in the morning because your alarm clock wakes you up, not because your inner directive does, or your family members that love you or whatever, or your hunger or something like that. And you have to jump out of bed and brush your teeth, and you have to get in the car and sit in traffic. None of that is dancing through time. That is moving through time in very herky-jerky, puppet-like movements that are all being controlled by something that is malevolent, that doesn't want you to be free. So Jose Argüelles spoke about how, like, the next level of freedom for humans, it's a return to time as art. So what I'm trying to say is the degradation that happened in our human genome thousands of years ago expressed itself symptomatically as no longer moving through time as an artist. Like, let's say someone's like, well, I will pay you $5. You're like, but I'm busy dancing and doing things that are important. You have to stop dancing, do this for me over here, go dig a ditch, then I will give you $5. As soon as you stop dancing so that you can go dig a ditch for $5, that is when you lose your immortality. And in the opposite direction, the way to regain your immortality is to stop digging a ditch for $5 and to return to dancing. Now, what I just said to you might seem like the most irresponsible, irrational, stupid, suggestions for life that you could possibly be. Be like, what, Aurora? If you do that, you'll be homeless. You'll be stuck out on the street. You'll have no money. And I'm certain that all of us have whatever mommy, daddy, parents, or government speaking to us in our mind that says, you'll never get paid. You'll never get money. You'll never survive in that way. So there's a very real reason why everybody stops dancing in order to go dig a ditch for $5, because you got to get $5. So the challenge is for us to restructure our economy so that you earn money for dancing, not just for digging a ditch for $5. And if you do that, then you get to be immortal. I know it's not a perfect answer, because you're going to be like, well, Aurora, like, how do I do that? I'm working on it too. It's what I do with my art and music. I create a creative output. and then I ask other people to contribute to me for my creative output. And I try to structure my day to do things that are as most in tune with my inner directive as I possibly can be. And I still have to do things like, choreful things that are not necessarily dancing through time. So I'm working on it too. Oh, Patricia, lovely to see you. She says that while meditating on the 2D 6-pointed star, I see that 6 equals 8, 3D Merkaba, 8-point tetrahedron, just like the 6-pattern flower of life, 8 lobes. Oh, well, it sounds like you're doing really good. I think I'm understanding what you're talking about. So Patricia's saying, does this speak to the misrepresentation of energetic architecture? I think, okay, good. Thank you. Wait, first of all, Yaki, I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, is confirming that that's not stupid. What I said about dancing through time as opposed to digging a ditch for $5. Thank you. Because now I want to talk, and I'll get to these other questions and comments. Jaxie, thank you, Jackie. Let's talk about like genes. And so our DNA contains ideas and it gets passed down from generation to generation. Let's talk about like the flowers in a meadow or something like that. So the parental generation, flowers in a meadow, a big giant field. They're like, oh, it's a drought. It's a drought. I'm going to put an inner directive into my DNA that says, save water, save water, save water, be sensible. And then those seeds get planted the next year and that generation grows up. And in their DNA, the seeds from the drought parents says, save water, be sensible, be sensible. But that year is a year of abundant water. You don't have to save water. In fact, you should use as much freaking water as you possibly can and grow as big as you possibly can and make big, giant, juicy flowers because the weather conditions are different. Weather conditions are different now than they were in your parents' generation. So your parents' generation might have said, don't try to be a dancer. Get a real job, dig a ditch, get $5. All right? Because that was wintertime. That was not the springtime of the mind. That was a cold, dead, frozen time when you could not make stuff happen by thinking about it and putting energy into it and manifesting it. You needed to have a real job. You needed to work in a factory and like earn your money and eat bread and milk. This is a different time. So the parents' generation might say to you, get a job, work in a factory, get your pension plan and then live on your pension. That was appropriate information for the early 20th century. And actually, I saw some of those people became elders in our family, and I saw what their lives were like. They got a pension of like $88 a month. You're not going to live on that pension. So I understood pretty quickly that was not an effective approach to survival. So what I'm trying to say is the previous generations that led up to our current incarnation left residues inside of us and taught us culturally, these are the appropriate ways to survive. Save water, be sensible. But we're not in a drought anymore. We're in this time right now that is a time of world of pure imagination, where you can sing like Willy Wonka and make things happen. This is a different time. So in this time, it is horrible direct. Don't follow the directive that says, be sensible, work in a factory. No, because in this time you have the capacity not to work for $5 in a factory, but to dance and to get paid or get all of the resources that you need by dancing. So we're still in this transition. So I understand, don't feel upset or frustrated if you still have to do your side gigs or your main gigs or whatever to earn your money. And I'm telling, like, I'm here in the same, context as everyone else. So I have various things that I do. I have fine art that I do just because my inner directive tells me to do it. And then I have things like whatever, like making fabrics and stuff that I can sell. I make merch that I can sell because I gotta have side gigs and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to find ways that I can make artwork and be free, but then sell it. And, we're in a transition state. So I want everyone to be loving towards yourself, love and accommodate yourself, even while you hold forth the vision of a perfected or ideal life for yourself and life for all of us. Yeah, like Ron is saying that he still has to work. There is nothing like, don't be like, oh, I hate like, don't be that way. Recognize and understand that we're transitioning. Just like I eat food. I don't eat just pure sunlight. When I came here, I wanted to eat nothing but just pure sunlight. And I was like, I'm going to have to figure out how to eat food. You could tell my shoulders went down. But I celebrate eating food. I eat food. Food is good, even though it's expensive. And you got to work for money to get the food from the store. But we're in transition. And so when it's time to no longer eat food, we'll no longer eat food. So, yes, and Ron is saying, oh, sorry, it's Patricia in Ron's computer. Patricia's saying you're a healer, so you still get to dance. Exactly. So in the rectified world, let's call it, if you are a healer, you do that work and you get sustained in our world for doing that work, because we live in this world where there is an artificial overlay that is an economy that is lucrative, but the tasks are not interdirective tasks, and they are not, all of the tasks in our manufactured economy make you go askew. They're like, I'll pay you, but you got to go askew for me. So it's very challenging, and that's all intentional. Like, that's intentional. So yeah, we, the experiencers of this economy, firsthand experiencers, we are restructuring the economy so that it's actually good for us. The economy was created by malevolent overlords to keep us enslaved, but we can restructure it. So what that means is that we have to support one another in our dance, whatever your dance is, even if your dance might seem impractical to the viewpoint of previous generations. So that was what Jackie was saying, that it sounds like the best advice in the world to follow your inner directive. So yeah, please, to all of you, without endangering yourself in any way, follow your inner directive. So that might mean transitioning from an unfulfilling career or income approach or living situation to a more fulfilling career, income approach, and living situation. And so you don't have to just drop everything and be homeless and then bounce around. I'm not advocating that at all. Just like you don't have to stop eating food and starve until you finally get to be a sunlight eater. No, we're in transition. And also, this is going to require like restructuring on a larger social scale level than just individual, but you can still do a lot for yourself. Patricia's saying, I have found by experience that if I focus on service, the money comes. It's a matter of perception. So that's one of those other things when I talk about time distortion. Synthetic telepathy is one thing, that even being able to control your own thoughts and your own mind. But the other thing is the steering wheel, that there are some ways that up until this point, malevolent, occult societies have rewarded certain people using dark magic or technology to distort the time field, and punished and suppressed other people. Be like, troublemaker, you ain't going to get paid. You ain't going to get any money. Like that, you're going to get suppressed. You're going to get pushed down. So that's been going on for a long amount of time. What Patricia describes is what's supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is you follow your heart, you do what you love, you focus on helping people, and the money comes. That's what life is like where I'm from. That's why I'm so exasperated. I clutch my pearls. It's so barbaric down here because you can work really hard. You could do stuff to really help people. And if you don't, have a gig or whatever, if you don't have a side gig or a main gig, then you can have no money, even though you're doing lots of really good things to really help people. So we need to completely restructure our experience so that, people who are really helping other people are rewarded and are rewarded effectively so that you're sustained. Thank you very much for the compliment. My hair's a hit. People love it. Come on up, girl. Come on up. We're almost at the end of class because I can tell my dog is saying she needs to go out for a little walk. So time is art. Let us, end on that idea that we should follow our inner directive, move through time in a way that is artful. And if we have to have side gigs or main gigs, there is a way to do it artfully. But there's a way to do it so that the people that you're interacting with during the day, like you might need to make phone calls or sales calls or whatever, you can connect with them for real. Or whatever, even if you're just purchasing something at a store, you can have a real connection, a real interaction, even in the artificial context of everybody having to do their work. And I think that helps to awaken everyone. Instead of being, robotic robots going to work, drinking the coffee, buying the stuff, going home, that there comes to be a real wakefulness, a real connection, and that's the exit from the matrix. Like get out of the comfort of just running on the wheel and begin to vary your activities. And you can do other things too that are kind of like that shake things up a little bit. Even if you have a structured way that you earn your money, do things differently every day. Shake things up, make it different so that it's constantly new variables being emitted in the time field. I love what you say. Jackie is saying The Art of Time by Aurora, but Jose Arguelles really came up with that. He said, time is art. So I must give full credit to him. Thank you, Patricia. Love back to you. Thank you so much. So I am going to complete things for right now. I'm working wonderfully on a new music and art project that this is completely different from what I usually do here in the class, which is an intellectual exploration of these energy patterns and description of them. What I'm creating with the online concert is an experience of it. So yeah, I received a wonderful email today where just a person looking at a little blurb, they were like, that made my wings started to fly. It's in the title, guys. It's called The Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Not the sitting on the couch rainbow lasagna. Not the sitting on earth going nowhere rainbow lasagna. It's the flying rainbow lasagna. So this is about flying with your mind, flying with consciousness, transporting yourself onto other timelines. So all of the work that we've been doing here, we've been doing hard work in this class in order to understand the concepts and the music theory. And now it's time to actually like be in the symphony, go to the performance, feel it. So yes, I'm working on animations and wonderful music that is made from some, here I got my instrument over here. You can see what I got over here from some of my resonant instruments and other samples. It's going to be really wonderful. So I don't mean to turn class into an advertisement, but just to make you aware that there's another layer of lasagna that if you're hungry, you can definitely delve into. So thank you very much. I'm going to end the recording, but not end the chat. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you.